Well, what's up, everybody, and welcome to What's Up with Dr. A. Nathan Young. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad that all over the place you're telling me how this ministry is blessing you and how you're tuning in and how you can't wait to see it on Sunday mornings. We thank God that this ministry is blessing so many people all over this region, and we thank God for the fruit that it's going to produce in your life. We're going to go into our 11 a.m. service at our Covington campus right now. Meet us right back here in 26 minutes. I can't wait to see you. We are wrapping up our series called Next Level, and the last 2 weeks we've talked about commitment. We're going to kind of switch gears here, and we're going to talk about something else that's important not only to our spiritual lives, but also something that's important to our lives as a whole. This thing that we're talking about today is so important that I would say oftentimes when we look at our lives and we examine our state in life, if we point to any area where we're not satisfied, where we haven't achieved what we want to achieve, where we hadn't accomplished what we want to accomplish, most of the time we would point to something on the exterior as a reason why. We would say the job that I lost. We would say the economy that took a turn for the worse. We would say that no good rotten scoundrel. We would say that no good rotten woman. We would say those bad kids of mine. We would point to all kinds of external things as the reason why we are not where we want to be. But I believe that in more cases than not, more often than not, that this one thing is the reason why we are not where we want to be, and that is the unwillingness to sacrifice. I'm going to take my time with this because I really want you to get it, because especially for those of us who are younger, I believe that this is the thing that haunts us in many areas of our life. And for others of us, if you would learn the principle of sacrifice, it'll save you a whole lot of heartache. It'll save you a whole lot of headache. And you'll accomplish way more than you ever dreamed or imagined you could accomplish. Sacrifice. Now watch this. If commitment follows value, sacrifice follows commitment. I'm going to say that again. If commitment follows value, sacrifice then would follow commitment. In other words, I commit to what I value, and then I sacrifice for what I'm committed to. And the degree to which I'm willing to sacrifice is the degree to which I am committed. And many times we are committed to a certain extent. But then when it comes time to sacrifice, we become uncommitted. And when we become uncommitted, then we stop achieving. Then we stop accomplishing. Then we stop moving forward. And then life gets in a rut, even spiritually. For some of us, there are some areas in our lives where spiritually we're in a rut. For some of us, we're not experiencing God like we want to experience God. We've gotten to this place where there's not that fellowship, where we don't experience his presence. And, we say, well, it's the praise and worship, or it's the teaching, or it's this, or it's that. No, listen. 9.9 times out of 10, it's your own unwillingness to sacrifice. It's your own unwillingness, get this, to give up what's good to you for what's best from God. Ephesians 5:2. And walk in love, just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us. An offering and, what's that next word? Sacrifice to God as a fragrant what? Aroma. An aroma is a smell.
And what this passage is saying is that in order to get us, Christ valued us so much that he was committed to getting us. And he was so committed to having a relationship with us that he was willing to sacrifice his own life so that he could do it. Now watch this. That sacrifice from Christ, get it, was a fragrant aroma to God. And all throughout the Bible, back in Leviticus and in other places, you'll read where God talks about sacrifice being a pleasing aroma to his nostrils. And so here's my first question for you. If sacrifice is an aroma that is pleasing in the nostrils of God, what does your life smell like? Can you point to any area of your life where you are actively, intentionally, and on an ongoing basis creating a pleasing aroma in the nostrils of the God that you serve because of your ongoing sacrifice? 1 Kings chapter 17, there is a king over Israel. His name is Ahab. And you may not know who Ahab is, but surely even if you hadn't been in church for any amount of time, you've heard of his wife, because her name is Jezebel. And most of us, even if we don't know exactly who she is, we've at least heard of Jezebel. Why have we heard of Jezebel? Because Jezebel is the quintessential bad woman of the Bible and of the universe. Why you call her that, Pastor? Because first of all, she was a bad woman. Second of all, we know that because you'll hear of ladies and little girls named after most of the other women in the Bible. You hear people being named Mary, Deborah, Dinah, Sarah, Martha. You hear people named all these. You never hear anybody name their little girl Jezebel. You ain't never heard nobody say, "Come here, little Jezebel." Why? Because that wouldn't be good. Because she's the quintessential bad woman. In this case, Ahab and Jezebel, who are married, have convinced the children of God to worship Baal. Now, Baal was supposed to be the god of the rain. And so as a result of the children of Israel, God's children worshiping Baal, this god of the rain, God says, I tell you what I'm going to do, just to show you guys who the true and living God is, and to punish you for worshiping another God, I'm going to lock up the rain. And I want you, Elijah, to go and tell Ahab and Jezebel that it's not going to rain until I say that it's going to rain. But Elijah, not to worry, because for you, because you've been obedient to me, because you do what I tell you to do, I'm going to send you by a brook that's called Cherith. And at that brook, you'll receive water from it. And I'm going to send the ravens to feed you twice a day. So you'll be taken care of because of your faithfulness to me. And not only am I going to take care of it, but because I'm in the business of showing off when I take care of the people who are faithful to me, I'm going to take this bird, the raven, who is a scavenger by nature, who's used to taking all that he can, who's used to being opportunistic and finding places where he can steal stuff and where he can grab stuff. I'm going to turn his heart, and instead of him taking, I'm going to use him to give you what you need. What are you saying, Pastor? I'm saying that when you are faithful to the Lord, God has a way of using things that you never, ever, ever expected to bless your life. Elijah goes by the brook, and he's there drinking fresh spring water. Ravens are bringing him food twice a day. And then God says, hey man, in the middle of this famine, he comes to him. Famine's not over. But then he comes to him and he says, I'm drying up the brook. It's time for you to move. If you're Elijah, you're going, wait, what? You're drying up the brook. It's time for me to move. Well, Lord, where in the world am I going? Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying this in verse 8. Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and stay there. First of all, this don't make sense. The reason why it don't make sense is because God is moving him from a place where he's providing for him to a place that's also affected by the famine. The other reason why going to Zarephath does not make any sense whatsoever is because this is the place where Jezebel is from. So, Lord, why would you move me from a place where you providing for me to a place that's in famine and to a place where my enemy is from? Doesn't make sense whatsoever. God says, if you think that don't make sense, wait till I tell you what I got next. He says, behold, I have commanded a widow to provide for you. Wait, time out. So you're going to take me from the brook where you got the raven bringing me food and the brook supplying me water. And you're going to bring me to a place that's in the middle of a famine and that's the home of my enemy. And you're going to have a widow provide for me. Lord, I don't know if you know this, but widows are poor people because their husbands are dead. And we don't have no Social Security. We don't have no life insurance. We don't have none of that stuff that them folk gonna have in 2019. So it ain't no independent women. So how in the world you gonna have a widow provide for me in the homeland of my enemy in the middle of a famine? And God ain't never give no explanation. He just said go. And can I tell you what stops many of us from experiencing the blessings of God? Because as opposed to being obedient to the command of God, we wait for the explanation. Here's the problem with that. The lack of an explanation in the case of a clear command of God is never an excuse for disobedience. I'm going to say that again. The lack of an explanation when it comes to a clear command from God is never an excuse for disobedience. And most of the time we rob ourselves of the blessings of God because we don't understand that faith is the bridge between what God commands and what I don't understand. And when God commands me to do something and I don't understand why he's commanding me to do it, then the thing for me to do is by faith, just do what he's commanding me to do without the explanation, trusting that because he commanded me to do it, then God's going to make sure not only am I all right, but I'm better than all right. And we rob ourselves of an opportunity to experience blessings from God. Why? Because we want an explanation. Because, Lord, that don't make sense. You sitting on the shores of a dry brook that God been told you to move away from. God says, I'm drying this brook out. It's time for you to move. And as opposed to you being obedient to the voice of God and moving when he tells you to move, but I like the brook. And you falling in love with the brook and you're going, the brook was good. Why would you dry up the brook and I had the ravens bringing me food and it was all good? Why would you mess with that? And God's going, your failure is you thought your security was in the brook. Your security wasn't in the brook. It was in he who supplies the brook. And when he who supplies the brook said, move away from the brook, it's time for you to move. Whether you understand it or not, it's time for you to move. But you didn't move, so you're sitting there on the shores of a dry brook thinking of how awesome it used to be yesterday. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. And God's going, when you gonna move? Elijah gets up and he moves. Watch what happens next, verse 10. So he arose and he went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of a city, just like God said, behold, there was a what? Widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, please get me a little water in a jar that I may drink. Watch what happens. As she was going to get it, I want to paint this picture for you. He says, please go get me some water in a jar so I can drink it. And as soon as he asked her to do that, she left to go get it. She's going to get it. And then he says this. As she was going to get it, he called to her and said, please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. I want you to get this. He asked for some water. No problem. Go and get it. And then as he's going to get the water, she's going to get the water, he yells out, excuse me, ma'am. Can a brother get some bread too? It's in the Bible. Tell y'all ought to read y'all Bible, man. It's not my fault y'all read y'all Bible boring and I don't. Now, she was perfectly willing to go get the water. But then when he asked for the bread, watch what happens. Next verse. But she said, as the Lord your God lives, I have no what? Only a handful of flour in the bowl and a little oil in the what? So he asked for the water, and she was perfectly all right going to get the water. But then the brother had the righteous indignation, the audacity, the superlative, whatever big word you can come up with next, to ask for some bread. And now she got an attitude. Wait a minute, brother. I don't have no bread. Pastor, how you read attitude into that? Because she lied about it. She said, I don't have no what? But I knew she was about to lie. How you knew she was about to lie? First of all, let me establish that she lying. Because she said, I have no what? But all I have is a little handful of flour in the bowl and a little oil in the what? Excuse me, miss, but if you got some flour in the bowl and some oil in the jar and some water to mix it up with, come on, somebody. You got everything you need. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Well, Pastor, how you knew she was about to lie? Because of what she started off with. But as the Lord your God was. That's modern day, I swear for Lord. And anytime somebody start off an answer to your question with Pastor, I swear for Lord, you're about to lie. Y'all laughing because y'all know it's true. I don't have no bread. All I got is a little bit of oil and some flour, and I'm going to mix it in the bowl. What was the real deal? She ain't want to give him no bread. Now, I want you to get this. She was perfectly willing to go get the water, but she was unwilling to give him the what? Now, get this. Listen. There's a famine in the land. And the reason why there's a famine in the land is because God said, I'm not going to allow it to rain until I say it rains. So listen. What that means is water at this point is just as important or even more important than the bread. And yet she's willing to give up the water. But she's just not willing to let go of her what? Even though they both are equally important, or the water is even more important. Pastor, why is it that she's willing to give up the water and not the bread, even though they both are important? Here's the reason why. Because she valued the bread more than the water. See, listen. When it comes down to what we sacrifice and what we don't sacrifice, hear me on this. What makes it a sacrifice is the value that we place on it. See, a lot of us as believers, there are things that are just as important as the other to God. And we get to this place where we pick the important things that we're willing to do for God. God, I give you my time. But don't ask me for my money. I'll give you my money, but don't ask me for my time. I'll give you my time, but just don't ask me for it every Sunday. I want to grow spiritually. I read the word, but I ain't that good at praying. I pray, but I never could read quite well. So I ain't willing to do that. Listen. They all are equally important. Get this. And the reason that the thing that makes it sacrifice is the value that it has. Watch this. The fact that it's something that's precious to us. And it's not sacrifice until we're giving up something that's precious to us. Other than that, it's just water. And for a whole lot of us, we got our water that we give God every day. And we perfectly all right giving it to him. Every week, we give him the water of Sunday morning attendance. Some of us, we give him the water of our tithe. We give him, some of us, the water of our time. Some of us, we give him the water of our serving. But then God's sitting in heaven going, when are you going to let me get that bread? The water cool, but when you going to break bread with a brother? What's breaking bread with you, Lord, is letting go of that thing that up to this point you told me I can't have. That thing that's just as important as all the other stuff you're giving me. When you going to sacrifice that? She said, I'll give you the water. No, not the bread, bro. She says, I'm gathering these sticks. I'm going to go in, prepare it for me and my son. And we're going to eat it. And then we're going to what? Sacrifice is never easy. It's never what? I'm proud to tell you that your pastor has lost 16 pounds. Come on. No, come on. I told my daddy that. He said, that's like throwing a chair off the Titanic, son. You ain't did nothing. And y'all know I've been talking about that chicken sandwich, right? My wife told me they ought to be paying you royalties. Much marketing as you giving them on that chicken sandwich. I said, yeah, they should. Now take them to, in the name of Jesus. To be honest with you, I haven't been eating it. That's why I'm down 16 pounds, and it's been hard because I like to eat. I've been eating right. I've been doing good. Down 16 pounds, got on the scale yesterday, first thing in the morning, said I'm down 16 pounds. I said, woo, thank you, Lord. 16 down, my goal is 30. So I got 14 to go. I said, man, you know what? I've been good. And then I heard a voice from heaven saying, treat yourself. Don't cheat yourself. I said, I think I'm going to get me one of them chicken sandwiches. But I prayed about it. And the Lord told me it's cool. And this is how I know the Lord said it was cool. Because I said, Lord, if it's your will that I get one of these chicken sandwiches, when I get the Popeyes, don't let there be a line. So I got there right when they opened. It's a miracle. No line. And you know how it be when you catch them when they first open. Whoo, that thing was hot. And they ain't cook it in the old grease. You could tell it was cooked in the new grease. That's how you eat hot chicken. Woo, it was good. Listen. This one was better than the first one I had, and the second one I had to make sure the first one was good. But you know the reason why I think it was so good? Because of all the times I told myself no. Because of what I sacrificed before I got it. Sacrifice is never easy. But when you sacrifice, life tastes so much better on the other side of it. Watch what happens. Go back to my verse. She says, we're going to eat it and die. Then Elijah said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you have what? Now, what's so cold-blooded about that, Pastor? Because of what she just said she was going to do. She said, I'm going to fix these cakes, and me and my son going to eat them, and what? Come on, then this is his response, the man of God. Don't be scared. Go on and do what you're going to do. And then he said this to us. He got even more cold-blooded with it. He said, but make me a little bread cake before you do it. In other words, don't make sense for all of us to die. It's in the Bible. I can't help it if you read your Bible boring. It says, and bring it out to me. And then afterward, this is what he said. He said, then you could take one for you and your what? Now I want you to see this. Go back to verse 12. She said, we're going to eat it, and then we're going to die. Listen, listen, listen. Lack of sacrifice makes you hopeless. Come here, come here, come here, come here. You know why you're hopeless in your finances? Because of your own lack of sacrifice. Woo! You know why you're hopeless in your marriage? Because of your own lack of sacrifice. Why are you hopeless even though you saved? Pastor, I'm saved, but I never feel his presence. I never experience his fellowship. It's as if being saved doesn't make a difference in my life. Here's the reason why. Because of your lack of sacrifice.
Well, thank you once again for tuning in to What's Up with Dr. A. Nathan Young. I hope that today's message blessed you, and I really hope to see you soon, live and in person. Come visit us at one of our campuses, either at 1148 North Columbia Street in Covington, Louisiana, or at 57209 Allen Road in Slidell. The Covington services are at 7:45 and 11 a.m., and the Slidell service is at 9 o'clock a.m. Be my guest at one of our services, at one of our campuses. I can't wait to see you there. If you want to check us out on the web, we're at myfaithbible.org or faithbibleslidell.com. God bless you. I'll see you next week.